So Chuck, what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think this relationship between her and Willie Brown in the 90s when she was 29, like, had on her career? Because Marie said she slipped away to the top. So
I guess what I would say is I hesitate to comment on anybody else's relationships. I would say that this is something that is mostly coming from like loose reporting, right? Maybe Willie Brown has made some comments, but not significant comments about the nature of any relationship they had. But if they did have a relationship, then, you know, I'm not going to make. I don't have an opinion on other people's relationships and whether they are.
Boring.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. Give me another liberal.
Here's the thing.
Hi, everybody. This is John Koenig back from Real Veteran News, now with Liberal. And we're going to introduce our friends. Everybody's asking for the viewpoint and everything. And from now on, I'm going to try to have like at least one liberal on the show. So got good friends here. 4 of us, 3 of them, 1 of me, James, Marie, and Chuck. So if you guys want to start introducing yourselves, first with my precious liberal, Chuck.
Hey, I'm Chuck, and I'm the token liberal. I've known John for a while. I've served in the military, then worked at the State Department for some time. My background is primarily cyber, and it's good to be here.
Yes. James, you're actually this is the first one you've done. You want to introduce yourself next?
Hi, everyone. I'm James Webb. I served in 3rd Ranger Battalion with John in 2006 through 10. Before I was medically discharged after a drunk driver hit me, and I got into agriculture and introducing veterans to agriculture and equine therapy.
Yes. Right. All right, Marie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marie. I'm an Army veteran. I actually have 4 days left on my contract, and I am done. I worked with John, and Chuck was actually my boss for a little while there. He's great, phenomenal boss, but sorry, he's not available anymore unless you want to move. And James, we've met a few times, and it's great to be back and work with all 3 of you. So I look forward to this.
Awesome. So first off, I got my dad's shirt on today. So shirt's a little bit big, but we got Bill Koenig energy. Mm-hmm. And then with regard to Marie and Chuck, yes, we all used to work together. And I've been thinking about it. You know, I miss those old days. All of us working back there, we were like younger, like actually doing the thing, doing work. And, you know, it seemed like the day, you know, day in and day out back then, but good old days. So it's good to have you guys back and introduce you to James. So
wait, so you do equestrian therapy, equine therapy. Have you been closely watching Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart on the Olympics?
No, I missed out. What's going on there?
Oh, they're both, they're doing the announcing for like dressage.
Oh, yeah. Snoop likes the horses that do the crip walk. I forgot. Yeah, that was funny.
Horses. I like this. This is equestrian.
This is prancing.
They call this equestrian.
By the way, look at that horse.
Did you? Oh, the horse crip walking, cuz. You see that? On the set. That's gangsters of up. Hey! Oh, cuz. Oh, look at this, cuz.
Oh, come on, man.
This horse is off the chain. I gotta get this motherfucker in a video, cuz.
Oh, you see?
Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg came dressed to impress on day 8 of the Paris Olympics. The famous friends teamed up to attend the Dressage Team Grand Prix Special on Saturday.
Good, yeah.
Dressage is actually cool. It was made for the knights in battle for their horses to actually like stomp on the enemy. But now everyone thinks it's like this prim and proper thing where they're dancing around. And like the roots of that are pretty savage, you know?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when you work closely with any animal like that, life or death, it's like a really cool experience. So I can appreciate anything like that.
in other news, Middle East war. Yeah, the Olympics, whatever. All right, so the topics for today are Israel versus Iran, Secret Service, we're going to shit on them, Kamala Harris, both sides, and the prisoner swap. So to get started with the news in the Middle East, start off with grotesque rectum injuries to the. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Story though. So basically, the Hamas guys they hold at this prison called Statiman, and they have been butt fucking these guys with like baseball bats and shit like that, and severe rectum injury. They took this guy to a hospital, and then the Israeli Department of Justice like issued a warrant for the people's arrest because they were like torturing them or whatever. And then the police came in, raided the military base, arrested some of the like guards, and then the soldiers at the military base. It's kind of like January 6th. They're saying it's kind of like Israel's January 6th. The soldiers went on social media, and were like, "Hey, they took our buddies. We're just having some fun with these Hamas guys." Then basically this mob formed with like these Knesset members, which is like their Congress, their parliament, and they started going down there, like these conservatives. Then all these people started going down there. They basically forced their way into the base and like took over this military base in southern Israel because they wanted to like free these guards that had been like anus torturing these Hamas dudes. And then eventually the protesters just like left because they realized that the people weren't there anymore. So they had no reason to be there. So they just left. These are like Netanyahu's people. So what did you guys think about the severe rectum injuries?
I think we learned with Abu Ghraib that this just fuels your enemies, so they shouldn't be cutting any slack on these guys. They need to just hammer them. The fact they want to let these people out for doing that, it like destroys their whole argument of being like the higher moral culture in this battle. So I think those guys need to hang for what they did.
Yeah, some people are calling for the death penalty. Chuck, what do you think?
Well, I don't know about death penalty, but I do think, in the same vein that international norms and alliances and conventions matter. And these are things that we just don't allow, right? Torture and like all of these things are unallowable. And I think we want to maintain to the greatest degree possible the order of things as we have them today. We don't want to fall back into times when like anything is on the table. And stuff's going to happen. There are groups who are going to operate in that way, but that's not the way that we should operate. That's not the way that Israel should operate. That's not the way that, there's a part of the world that doesn't operate in that way. And we should maintain that as much as possible. Keep those things on the table.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Marie, what up?
I agree 100%. International diplomacy. That's why, we are spread out throughout the entire world for diplomacy. And, we should be part of this international effort to stop this stuff. The investigation should continue. It's disgusting. War crimes are war crimes. And, it doesn't matter if you're shooting somebody because they are a different color than you or you're raping someone with a baseball bat. It's absolutely disgusting. And it should never happen, ever, no matter how horrible people are. Let God sort them out.
Exactly.
So I feel like if you go to prison in Israel, when you come out, your asshole is going to be like a half full bag of leaves blowing in the wind. Once they're done. And I don't know if they're using a baseball bat. That's what I assume. They might just be using like big dildos or dicks or something. It could be anything.
All sorts of things.
Whatever it was, severe, grotesque anus injuries happened and started this whole January 6th thing. So
it doesn't serve their interests. I mean, that's the overall point, right? As James said, this does not serve their interests. It only incites the opposition. It only makes things more difficult for them, for their allies, and it potentially degrades our ability as a rational culture, global culture, to engage in warfare in a way that we think is fair, right?
Yeah, they. I remember how scared women would be of us touching them or being in a room with them. This is before we had the cultural support teams where we bring females with us on missions, because they'd been told that we were going to rape them and stuff. They truly believed that, and it was from stories of Abu Ghraib, where they were torturing those prisoners naked with leashes and all. They just one incident of that, and then because in Afghanistan it's one person comes through with information, that's the only information you have. So if that's the information, and then the whole Muslim world is going to see this, and it's just going to validate everything they've been doing it to them.
I mean, realistically, what do you think they're doing to these Hamas guys? Like, seriously, like fluffing the pillow and like mint on the pillow? Like, no, come on. Like, I fucking hate these dudes.
I mean, we decided as a society, as a global society, we made decisions about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And we should continue along that vein, right?
Yeah.
And we decided as globally, we created organizations, institutions, we have conventions that govern how we interact, even at the worst of times, and we should try to follow those things as much as possible, right? In all cases, not as much as possible. In all cases, we should try to follow that, and we should hold our allies to the same.
That's what separates us from the enemies. You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What are we fighting for?
Exactly. What are we fighting for if not to become the monsters?
360-degree security around Haktua. Okay.
Yes.
No more shit like with Trump. We cannot afford to lose this girl.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next topic: Israeli bomb assassination in Tehran. The Israelis smuggled 3 bombs into the guest house that Ismail Haniyeh, who's a Hamas dude, was in. They blew it up at 2 a.m. when he was sleeping in bed. Killed him. One of his bodyguards. They thought it was a missile at first, but then they realized it. It's a bomb. There's 2 other bombs. They found those bombs. Obviously humiliating for Iran and whatever. Marie, what do you think about the Israeli assassination?
Absolutely stupid. Just why? I mean, you're adding more fuel to the fire. I know he's a bad guy. Okay, I know he's a bad guy, but during the current tensions, I mean, really, do you want to go to war? I know that there's an election coming up, but we really don't need a war before the election. That's where we are. We are right on. We're at the tip of the spear with this one. We should just you did it. You reap the repercussions of your actions, and we should have nothing to do with this.
James, what do you think about the Israeli bomb assassination?
I admire the operation for getting done. This is like super sleuth, old school stuff. It's kind of cartoonish, like Pink Panther style. I do think that it will destabilize them somewhat because they're worried about, initially they thought it was a drone strike, but then when they found out that this was like someone came in here and planted this. So now, they're getting their whole like guard all lined up. They're having to probably, interrogate them Hamas style to make sure they're not like double agents now. So that's going to shake things up a bit. So I can admire that. Timing wise, with what's going on politically, I don't think Israel cares. I think they're marching through it, and they're like, you guys are just going to have to accept it because, they're a nation that has like PTSD essentially, like where they're coming from. So they think they're righteous in this defense.
Yeah, so I think your liberal diversity has backfired on you because, again, I agree with everything that everybody is saying. There's nothing else to be said about this, right? This is it's nothing but provocative.
Give it to Kamala Harris. Fuck this shit.
Why does it happen? Probably because Netanyahu wants a war because he's struggling at home, and the longer he can drag this stuff out, the better for him. And so he's trying to drag us into it. I just desperately hope that we don't get dragged into this problem, and I hope that Turkey doesn't get dragged in Lebanon with all of these problems, maybe potentially, bringing NATO into this. This is a bad issue. This is not good. And it is domestic politics in Israel. And you've got Netanyahu potentially dragging the entire world into this. It's a bad thing. And there's no reason to do this other than to provoke somebody. And stuff was, to some extent, actually in the region, at least, maybe not in the country, but in the region, was starting to the temperature was going down. And all of a sudden now we're killing people in Iran. And not only are we killing people in Iran, we're killing one of the chief negotiators for the peace in the region. This is insane.
Yeah.
This is insane.
This is going to be a NATO versus BRICS. That's what it's going to turn into. It's not going to be small.
Yeah.
Split Turkey off of NATO, honestly.
I think this is primarily a domestic Israeli political issue at this point, right? This is obviously there's more to it than that, but I think this is happening because Israel is concerned, because Netanyahu is concerned about his own position, his own authority, and what might come next in terms of investigations and et cetera within Israel. And I don't think that this is something that the rest of the world cares about. Now, sure, alliances are alliances, and maybe that leads to something else. But I certainly don't think that you've got a bunch of the other letters in BRICS who are excited about getting involved in some conflict with NATO.
They said Russia's GDP has been doing really well since the war. That scares me. Between them, like the military industrial complex, like making up for like slow economies, and either Israel or Iran like forcing this war to happen. These are the things that I'm like scared of right now. I feel like no one wants to actually fight, but these like evil powers that be, I feel like they're going to force something like a Lusitania in World War II with the passenger ship, what was it in Nam? The
Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah, Gulf of Tonkin. I feel like something like that. The world is so at odds right now, like polarized between, even the Netanyahu thing with the guys who were torturing their prisoners. They were sort of like associating those people with Trump, and his movement. And I'm like, damn, the whole world is so like right or left right now that, in the powder cake situation in World War I, it's like that. I feel like something like that might happen. But I don't think the world wants to fight, but they never do. With these people in charge, like forces into it. And I think I'm scared of happening next.
I see this, the topic is Israel versus Iran. And it's really, I don't know so much of it's BRIC or whatever, but it's Israel versus Iran. But it's like we're tied to Israel. They're using our guns and our weapons and everything. They basically can't fight Iran without us because eventually they'll run out of bullets. They're going to run out of artillery, just like the Ukrainians. They're going to run out of artillery shells. They're going to run out of bombs. They already dropped every fucking bomb they had in Gaza. So it's like we're the ones giving them all this stuff. And then, it's going to be us and the Ukrainian or the Iranians and stuff. And without us, I don't even think Israel can beat Iran, honestly. Iran's got them surrounded. They've got Hamas in the south. They've got the Palestinians in the West Bank. They've got Hezbollah very strong in the north. They've been stockpiling weapons. They're upgrading their weapons. They've got a ton of money. And Israel can't really do anything to Iran except nuke them. I don't see how they win against Iran in a protracted conflict. And Netanyahu sucks. And he's setting up the situation where they're going to need our help, which then makes us complicit in anything they do. And they're playing nasty, obviously. It's just the Iranians, honestly, they're getting hacked and assassinated and all this stuff. That stuff doesn't matter that much. They're just a bigger, more powerful country. And eventually they're just going to steamroll over little Israel. Once that veil or that veneer of Israeli invulnerability is gone, like that whole region is going to turn on them because this is going to be like blood in the water. They're not honestly doing very well, and I don't think their leader is making good decisions. The last part of this is Iran is giving Hezbollah EMP weapons, which had never been used before in battle. We don't know exactly what they are, but they're essentially bombs or missiles. Depending on how powerful they are, how they use them or whatever, if they shoot those into Israel, it could fry the circuits of all their planes, their helicopters, their hospitals, their communications networks, their power grid, the tanks, like everything they're using. They could basically, hit the Iron Dome, all that shit's gone. They could hit them with a couple of these EMP weapons. You notice how many of them they have. And then Hezbollah could just pop out of the tunnels and just start marching right into Israel. And Israel is engaged in Gaza. They pulled some of their people out of Gaza, sent them up north or whatever, and they're ready to fight or whatever. But they only got so many people.
I think I would be a little bit careful about believing that this is actually true, right? This is a possibility, but it is definitely put out originally by like an Israeli government source through a relatively conservative Israeli newspaper. And so I think we just have to be a little cautious about assuming that this is absolutely true. This is not like sourced through multiple places. This is not something that's been discussed like by a number of countries. You have some very conservative Israeli sources indicating to a conservative Israeli newspaper that this is going on. And so that could be part of a propaganda effort. I would be cautious about just assuming that it's true. That said, certainly if it is true, very problematic, and who knows what this means in terms of like the warfare on the ground, and very troubling. But the opposite side of that, right? The fact that this is extremely troubling and could have huge implications for the state of Israel means that maybe the pressure to take action would be incredibly intense and like force them to do something that they otherwise may not do, right? I think we have to look at both sides of this.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they are implemented, how they work, because that's always been something like people have talked about America. That's something that would take us out really easily. I mean, we saw with the COVID, we were running out of supplies, how crazy people got about toilet paper. So without internet, phone, and all that, that's supposed to be one of the big things that could take us down right now is our infrastructure. And, with the border being open, maybe some guy came across with something, I don't know, but it'll be interesting if it actually gets implemented. We've never seen anything like that yet, right?
I've been waiting for it to come ever since I became a signaleer.
Yeah.
I've been waiting. Faraday bags aren't going to protect you. Sorry. Even if your phone is protected, it's the system. So if everything gets fried, everything gets fried. The implications are huge. We don't know if they actually have it. We're waiting, but not waiting to see. But I think that if they do have it and they use that power against Israel, it's going to get really ugly because their dome isn't going to work, is it? It's all electric.
It's not even working anyway. They shoot down 50% of those missiles.
Right.
Yeah, that's what people don't realize. Oh, yeah, it's better than nothing. Yeah, you can't argue that. You're right. I mean, that's 50% less. You're right. But yeah, people think it's like, it'll get everything. If it's a nuclear war, there's still like 2 out of 10 or something that get through. I think that's like what they plan on being like, okay, we passed our training. It's like, whoa, you should try harder, shouldn't you?
Not sure if it matters if you explode a munition in the air or on the ground, right? You've still got a major problem.
Yeah, either way.
If it's directional, hopefully it's, like an AT-4 and it's going backwards. And it affects them instead of anyone else.
Yeah. I love those videos.
You guys ready to shed on the Secret Service?
Yes.
All right. It's time. I've been shitting on the Secret Service since way back, but welcome to the party. SWAT sniper at the Trump shooting had no comms with the Secret Service. No communication. Secret Service never received the warning about the rangefinder that the local rednecks got to. I'm hiring local rednecks. They know this place better than anyone. But yeah, no communication, no briefing. They said on the news that this rally was the first rally that they actually had Secret Service snipers, that all the rallies before this, they just used like local police snipers. So
Jesus.
Anyway, it's crazy. But what do you guys think? And actually, James hadn't talked about Trump shooting, and Chuck hasn't either. I think Maria and I have talked about it, but let's just kind of get into that.
I guess to answer that question, right? I don't think there's any intention. This is ineptitude. Again, we have to be careful to allow things to play out. This is horrible. This was clearly a gross failure. There is no argument that indicates, there's no way to look at this and say that this is not a gross failure. There was negligence. There was a problem. Something went wrong. Probably a lot of stuff went wrong to get us to this place. And it's an unacceptable outcome, a beyond unacceptable outcome. Thank God that it wasn't even worse. I think that this is obviously a gross failure, and we need to get to the bottom of this. I also think we do need to make sure that we allow for a full and thorough investigation of what happened. We need to be cautious about jumping to conclusions, because what I would like to see is us figuring out and concluding, like, what is actually wrong? What actually went wrong? What was the real problem? And what were the series, probably, of missteps that led to this? Are they structural? Were they, an individual, right? We can start just like firing people and assume that we've solved the problem, or we can really do a thorough investigation and figure out, are these policy issues? Are these personnel issues? Whatever the problems are, right? I think that we should figure out what the true problem is and get to the bottom of it, because this is a big deal. This is very important. This is, a failure that has not happened to the Secret Service in a very long time, something this significant. And so I think we should take it very seriously. And if we're taking it seriously, we shouldn't rush to judgment. And we also shouldn't take action just to say we're taking action. We should really figure out what went wrong, and we should take the right actions to solve these problems and make sure that it doesn't happen again to any of the protectees of the Secret Service, or frankly, of any protective service.
I think definitely the top leadership might be a little bit compromised politically, because initially I thought it was ineptitude with, trying to put people, DEI hires maybe that weren't used to real serious situations yet. But then when you look at like this acting director, so they got rid of Cheadle, and then the acting director, he was like a part of minimizing Trump's security. That stuff makes me feel weird about it. Trying to remove his protection. I guess they just didn't think, liberals had guns or something. It was always just the conservatives that do that. But it seems like weaponized incompetence the further we go along. But at the same time, it could just be bad hiring and a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing. And they got complacent,
I think it's important to jump in about that, right? Like DEI hires, I don't feel like there has been anything that's indicated this has anything to do with any of the hiring decisions, right? Or anything to do with diversity in the ranks of the Secret Service, right? So I feel like that is maybe a talking point that's thrown out that doesn't have that has no basis in fact and isn't in any way supported by anything anybody's talking about. And then as I said, I think it is important to allow the investigation to play out because any factor could be what's at play here, right? If you think that people were put in a position for some reason other than their own qualifications, let's allow an investigation to occur and tell us whether that happened. And if that is true, then it may influence the future decisions about how the organization operates.
No, yeah, I'm totally hypothesizing. So, definitely wait for the verdict to come out before we put any final nails in the coffin for sure. I don't like how there wasn't communication between the locals and the Secret Service. I think that's why that sniper didn't know what to do for so long. He just allowed the mistakes.
Chuck said about the DEI hires, I think there should be absolutely no reason why a 5'2" woman should be protecting a 6'2" man. Because I saw the one put her hand up, like as in to block his face, because she's reaching up to cover his face. And I was like, why don't they have gorillas out here? Why would they put somebody who's at least 16 inches shorter than he is? That's just what it looked like.
I've thought about this a bit, and I'm about the same size as Trump. And I want the women to be successful and have careers. I don't know why they want to work in the Secret Service, but if they do, want them to be successful. But if I was the president and they sent in a 5'5" woman to protect me, I would send her back.
Right. And I wouldn't be offended by it because I did want to be Secret Service. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be FBI. I wanted to. I enlisted in the Army when I was 38 years old. I was always a badass. It just took me a long time to get there and realize it. But
yeah, I wanted to play in the NFL, but I'm not tall enough, Mm-hmm.
Well, my dream kind of came true, but I would not be offended by that at all whatsoever. It's like taking somebody who doesn't run fast enough to keep up with, Bolt. Why are you sending me somebody who can only walk when I'm a runner? It's the same kind of thing to me. And if people are offended by that, then they just need to check themselves.
I don't think it's about offense. I think we should also be careful about, yes, should people who are capable of doing the jobs be in the positions? Absolutely. But I think what we're discussing now is actually the part of the Secret Service's operation that was effective. So what you're saying is that the woman who was on the detail, who was part of the effective portion of the operation, shouldn't have been there because of something that I guess didn't impact the outcome. And so, sure, yes, we should make sure that people in place in these roles that are themselves physical are physically capable of performing the duties that are required. But I do think the discussion we're having now is that despite the fact that the outcome in that portion was effective, she herself maybe was somehow lacking and not capable and contributed in some way to the outcome, which is just factually untrue. So I think we need to be careful about that.
Right.
You do have a good point, because if we start looking in that direction, we may miss what really happened. In all honesty, did you hear about this supposed guy that this Chinese national that tried to break into Mar-a-Lago that said that he had proof that China was somehow connected? So, that could be all bullshit, of course, in today's world, but, it could be anything right now. And you do want to know, because that's important, whether it's Trump now or someone everyone actually likes next go around. If that's a possibility, that's a dangerous situation,
So there's an email that got sent in the Secret Service because the emotions are raw, because it's basically organizational failure here. And everybody knew it was coming. It's depressing. It hurts the brand. It makes people feel bad about their service because they didn't do their job, basically. In the email, it cites, this is a counter sniper who essentially is quitting, I think. Experienced counter sniper, Secret Service. He says the inability to protect leaders, and I think it's a guy. He says should expect another assassination attempt before the election. And he says that he's not proud to be a Secret Service sniper, and he's starting a new career, and he's trying to figure out how to leave that behind, or like he's like ashamed of it or something or whatever. Probably huge Trump guy, I would assume, this guy. But
I think there are probably a lot of emotions. I think this doesn't change the overall point that I've had the entire time, which is we need a full investigation that is thorough, right? So some random guy within the Secret Service whose identity is currently being protected, and maybe it's real, maybe it's not real, right? There's media reporting that there is a discontent by a sniper in the Secret Service. Like, I don't know what that really tells me. I think his sentiment sounds legitimate. I think it's probably, assuming that it's real, something that they should pay close attention to. But I think all of us can probably also recognize that, like, the opinions of, somebody on the ground sometimes are incredibly important, sometimes are not as important. They need to be weighed against other factors. And there could be systemic issues within the Secret Service. There could have been specific issues with individuals in this case. And I do think that's why, to get it right, we really need a thorough investigation that gives us real answers so that we can make sure this stuff doesn't happen again.
So, Kamala Harris. I guarantee we're not going to agree about this. So
we might all agree.
Yeah, right. I have a bunch of other stuff, but like recently Trump called Kamala Harris, like, decided she's black. We know that she's half Indian, half like Jamaican black. This was at like the National Association of Black Journalists. I'll probably put the clip in or whatever.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
Webb, as a man of Central Virginia, what do you have to say about Kamala's blackness?
Well, oh God, no comment there. I don't think I'm allowed to because my proximity to Charlottesville, where I'm from.
And then
it does seem political, okay? I mean, but you know, it's her background to claim. So who are we to deny that? If the black people accept her as black, well, that's the litmus test, is it not? So I don't know. It's I mean, it shouldn't even be a part of the politics in the first place. It shouldn't matter to anyone if she is or isn't. If you're truly an American, you should be caring about the same issues. Your children are safe. You have food. You can pay your rent, whatever it is. Like, you shouldn't feel that, oh, if someone of my same ethnicity is in office, I'll get preferential treatment. That just shows like a flaw in our system inherently. So once again, maybe we're getting misdirected.
Okay, so like Trump. Okay, that was boring as fuck. Obviously, Trump is going fucking head. Chill out, bro. Trump is going head first into the race thing and punching her right in the fucking face. Like, as soon as they basically figured out they got to do Kamala now, like, they're going straight at the race thing. They'll probably get her on. What are they? JD Vance is on the, like, if you don't have kids, you're like a psycho woman or whatever thing. Like, they're hitting her on the female thing and they're hitting her on the you think you're black thing, like, right away. Last week, I said it's going to be super racist, super fast. So,
has been correct.
Yeah, Chuck, what do you think?
So I think, first of all, I guess I'm not going to say that identity politics are important or they are something that really, what I will say is, however, if you don't see why seeing someone in a higher office who seems like you, who looks like you, who acts like you is important, then you've probably never felt unrepresented, right? So I think we have to respect that. We also have to respect the voters. Like, Americans get to vote. And so we should respect their decisions around voting instead of minimizing those things. I also think it is absolutely insane to say that this woman, this clearly, visibly Black woman who grew up in Oakland, and I mean, you can say she's a light-skinned Black woman, John, but that doesn't make her less Black.
She's Black adjacent. Like, come on.
Her experience in the world is Black. She grew up in Oakland, and she went to Howard, right? She went to a historically Black university. She has not been denying her Blackness. She has been Black her entire life. She has in very many ways been a Black person navigating the world. And just because she has a dual ethnicity, because she is half Black and half Indian, does not make her less Black, right? I think it's critical to remember that. And I don't think that Donald Trump's comments are intended for the audience that was there, right? He's not talking to Black journalists. He doesn't think he's going to make Black people think that she's not Black. I think he's speaking to his base. He's trying to get people out. And it dovetails with this like DEI idea, right, that's being pushed, that she's only there because of this. Oh, okay, but also she became Black later in order to get these benefits. The other half of Donald Trump's comments is she became Black because of, right? And what does it get her, right? No. This is a woman who spent her life as a Black woman. She went to a Black university, a historically Black university, recognized as like the Harvard, the Black Harvard, and she is in a Black sorority. She's not pretending not to be Black.
She doesn't look Black if you visually look at her. And she's not like American Black. She didn't grow up in an inner city. Neither of her parents are American Black.
She grew up in Oakland.
Come on.
I thought she grew up in Canada or something.
She grew up in Oakland.
She didn't go through the inner city like Black experience.
No, absolutely not. I fundamentally disagree with the idea that she's like that she's some white woman.
Super light skinned. Super light skinned.
She's been a Black woman for a very long time. She pledged a Black fraternity. She went to a Black university. Like she embraces her Black identity. So it's crazy to say that she's not. She embraces her Black identity. She navigates the world and experiences the world as a Black person, right? So great. Let's say that her father's Jamaican, and so she's not like, African American. She is an African American, born in the United States, born in Oakland, California, experiencing the world as an African American woman.
Okay, all right. You don't think
so? Like, I guess it's kind of.
Marie, what do you think?
I don't think it's anything that should be focused on because it has no relevance except for to garner votes and to pander to a certain community. It should be about, I wish that we could vote for people just based on their ideas and not see their face and not know their gender like the military has done, so that we can actually vote for the content, the character, and not what we think or want to portray or convey or whatever, but that'll never happen. Jamaicans and Africans are different. My brother was married to a Jamaican before he passed away, and she made it very clear that there is a huge difference between the two. The Africans have suffered through slavery. The Jamaicans may have, but in their own country, not in America. That's what she says. She's a very conservative Jamaican American. She went through the whole citizen process legally, but I don't think it has any bearing on whether she's capable or not. She slept her way to the top in California.
We're going there now? We're on that one now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I am, because I know people who have done it. I do. And it happens all the time. In the law offices that I've worked at the State Department that I worked at the contractors that I've worked at, and in the military, people sleep their way to the top, and it's both sexes. It's not one or the other. And it's a reality. And he admitted it, and she admitted it.
I would be very careful about leveling accusations against someone about sleeping their way to the top. Right? I do think, again, this plays into a narrative, a specific narrative that is trying to be spun, that she's not qualified for the role that she is currently, competing for. That somehow, because of either her being a woman or being Black or whatever, that she's
just dumb.
She's not dumb. She's demonstrably not dumb. And if you look at her in the Senate questioning witnesses, questioning people in front of the Senate, questioning people who political appointees, she frequently tears them apart, and you can see it on multiple occasions, right? That the senators come in, the members of the Senate come in, and her staff is behind her with binders full of information because she is ready. They have prepared. She is thinking. Other people are sitting there with a folder. They are there with binders of information, and she is rattling things off that she remembers from the preparations that she has had. And she was asking, and then this email from January 31st of 2016 when you said blah, 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 and turns her hand back to get the email. She's ready. She's prepared. She's capable. She's smart. And I think if you say that she's stupid, then you're also saying that the people that she was quite literally embarrassing, right, as she's questioning them in the Senate, are also pretty stupid. And I don't think any of those things are true. I think she's smart. I think she pushed herself to the top, and I think she did it through skill and capability, right? And I don't think there's question about that. That's my position.
It's scary she hasn't won an election, though. You know, like that seems antithetical.
She has won elections.
Yeah, she won Senate or whatever.
She's the Attorney General of the state of California, and she is the junior senator from California. She has won elections.
Yeah.
Well, I will say 18 years as a paralegal, lawyers know how to talk. They can say anything and make it sound good.
All right.
Whether it's a lie or the truth.
She's smart enough. She's not a genius. She's not dumb. The problem with her is she's not likable, and people don't want to vote for her, and people don't want her in charge.
She's a communist. She's an admitted one.
Average American.
The question is she not is she not likable, or is she too likable, right? Like, she laughs too much, or she's not likable. Like, where does... I guess I'm struggling to figure out what this whole... She's a weirdo who cackles all the time, and like, no one likes her. She laughs too much, or she's like... That seems like somebody who enjoys life and enjoys the like pleasantries of life.
It's called manic behavior.
She's not cool. Come on. Like, they get all these rappers up there, like, come on.
Of her dancing with people, laughing with people, having videos where she's like, just before filming, she's giving people recipes. They're bantering. They're getting along very well. She seems to be, in those like unscripted moments, a very likable and happy person, right? So I don't know.
So, okay.
Likable and happy. That doesn't make you qualified to be president, but she seems likable and happy. And so it feels crazy for me to see people like having all of these, negative opinions about her for laughing. Like, we haven't seen Trump one time in his entire public life. And that feels a little crazy to me. The guy who's been in the public eye for 40 years has not one time laughed in public. That's the part that feels crazy.
Okay. Marie was talking about her sleeping her way to the top. So this is what happened. She dated Willie Brown, who was a powerful politician in California in the 90s. In 1994, she was 29 and he was 60. And during their relationship, he gave her a BMW trip to Paris, and they went to the Oscars. And she was described as frequent companion. And he appointed her to 2 state commissions, which had required very little work and paid pretty well, especially if you're in your 20s or 30s. He's basically endorsed her. He said, yeah, we dated. I probably boosted her career up in the beginning. After that, she went on to be like DA and stuff like that. So, Chuck, what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think this relationship between her and Willie Brown in the 90s when she was 29 like had on her career? Because Marie said she slept her way to the top. So
I guess what I would say is I hesitate to comment on anybody else's relationships. I would say that this is something that is mostly coming from like loose reporting, right? Maybe Willie Brown has made some comments, but not significant comments about the nature of any relationship they had. But if they did have a relationship, then, I'm not going to make, I don't have an opinion on other people's relationships and whether they are,
boring.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. Give me another liberal.
Here's the thing. You know what I'm saying about this relationship? If they had this relationship, then good for them, and maybe they were happy. And so the age difference between Willie Brown and Kamala Harris is about the same as between Trump and Melania. And so, great. Is that such an issue? Do we think that there's a huge problem there? Is there something disgusting about that? It doesn't say disgusting to me. Like, people can have relationships. They can have a significant age difference. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, or it says anything bad about either of those people. And so, great. Like, did that person potentially, I'm not saying that this happened, but did that person give someone something because they're in a stronger financial position? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And if they did, is there something wrong with that? If we're going to go down this road and say that behavior is disgusting, you better be pretty sure that it is true about Kamala, because it is 100% true about Melania. So let's just like level set.
Well, this relationship is less disgusting than grotesque anus injuries. So there's that. But
I'm going to pull them together. My mind just got blown up by that comment.
Well,
I think
what do you
that
think about it?
if, someone's sleeping their way to the top, if they're not qualified, that's what everyone thinks, when they see what they think is incompetence, I guess. They think it's, sort of like a DEI hire, nepotism or some such. Can't, like you said earlier, you can't be completely stupid and have lasted this long. Everyone gets their start. She got her start, okay, but that sort of fell in the background a long time ago. If there's like other things since then that I think you could use to argue against her. I don't think she's doing
like
that now.
People who have been thrown in jail.
Yeah, with the weed and then like keeping the guy in jail when she knew he's innocent. That's pretty messed up. Like, that just shows you're kind of like an evil, mean person.
Yeah, exactly. And then, she smokes the weed. She smokes the weed, and it's okay, and she admits it, but she just locked up 1,500 people for doing the same damn thing.
Yeah, and that stuff matters when you're in power. Yeah, and when you're in power, that does matter. Yeah.
And that's what she wants. And she has admitted to that is it's going to happen because I will want it to happen. And if I'm in power, that's what's going to happen. I'm not giving you a specific thing, but she pretty much said those words. It's going to happen if I want it to. And that's the scary thing.
Because that feels quite specific. So what do you mean, and what comment are you talking about? That's a fair question, right?
All right. Can we talk about the campaign? So the Democrats are anxious about Harris behind the scenes. Obviously, there's all the energy out there. They're worried about her ability to connect. She wasn't a great candidate in 2020. They are just getting started. She has no presence in Pennsylvania. And she doesn't have a brand on the economy. Like, even if you think the Joe Biden economy is great, she doesn't have her fingerprints on it. So these are problems. What do you guys think? We'll check first. What do you think about it?
Again, I do think, there's real excitement about Kamala Harris. I think among Democrats, there's real excitement. And so I don't think anybody has any expectations that like hardcore, Trump supporters, people like that are going to really love Kamala Harris. But I think Democrats are pretty excited. They seem to be really interested in her. They are excited to put her forward as the candidate. And I think that can also bleed over into independents. There are a lot of people who were not interested in Kamala Harris, they were not interested in Trump, nor were they interested in Biden, who seem to be leaning toward Kamala Harris. I think polling shows that she is closing the gap with Trump. That doesn't mean she has an easy road moving forward, but in terms of polling, especially in swing states, she has closed the gap with Trump. And I think that changes the nature of the election. It makes this very competitive in a way that I would say, unfortunately, but not everybody agrees, unfortunately was not the case with Biden.
90% of Kamala's staff has quit in the first 3 years. 90%. Actually, I think it's 91.5%. Politics, but
around.
25 people, that's about 25 people that have quit. And it's because, as some people have said, it's exhausting. It's toxic. It's frustrating being in that office, to put it nicely, I guess. You don't just quit working for a VP because the hours aren't good. They're not giving you FMLA to take care of your newborn baby. You don't just quit the VP's office.
I mean, come on.
I think people move in and out for a lot of reasons. And I also think that there's high churn at those levels. And I also think that, if we're going to echo back to the, she's not smart enough comments, perhaps, perhaps she's a little too demanding, a little too capable, pushing people a little bit too hard. Now, you can make an argument that that needs to change and that maybe you can do better at workforce development. But I think if the argument is that this person is too demanding of staff, demanding a very high standard.
It's more like tyrannical behavior, like she seems symptomatic of like power.
Can we get back to the campaign instead of talking about her hazing and shit?
I don't think that's a fair term.
I'm joking. I'm fucking around. Can we talk about the campaign, please? Everybody's got personal opinions about her, but like, can she beat Trump?
No.
I do not think so. I think Democrats are just staying positive right now when they say all this stuff, because what else are you going to say? No offense.
I think it's in play, right? And I think it's crazy. I honestly, no offense, but I think it's crazy to say that it's not possible. Polling seems to disagree with you. And I think if you look at polling, hers is moving in the direction you want it to be moving, and his is moving in the direction you don't want it to be moving. That's not to say it's going to stay here. That's not to say that, everything is settled right now. But I think in a way that things felt relatively settled a couple of weeks ago, they do not feel settled now at all. I think we have a competitive race. I think we have somebody who's polling really well, who has tremendous excitement, who has record-breaking fundraising, raising more money than anyone has ever raised in the period of time that it has been raised. And
aren't they investigating it right now? Actually, I saw that.
No. And that is 100% true. And it is from new donors, and they are many small donations. This stuff is real. There's real excitement. And I feel like that laugh is indicating that this is not, that people aren't actually excited, which is not true. You are ignoring a huge portion of the U.S. population who is very excited about this possibility, who are really enthusiastic about the idea of her, number one, and some people who, are excited about the idea of a woman or a black woman or an Indian woman being the president of the United States. These are exciting prospects for some people, and people are excited, and it has led to genuine, real excitement, right? And so it is impossible and unfair to think that stuff couldn't translate into a victory for her.
Marie?
So she raised the most money after the most voted for president with 81 million won out of having the most votes out of anyone. But you're familiar with smurfing, right? Chuck, you've heard of smurfing?
Yeah, of course.
It's huge right now. Huge. And I implore of you to go to James O'Keefe's O'Keefe Media Group and look at this investigation, because it's big. They're going door to door and they're interviewing all these older people who get nothing but Social Security. And that's like between $1,200 and $1,700 a month. And that's all their income is. And these people are donating $6,000 a month that they don't donate. I mean, it's got their name and their address associated. And they're like, I've donated to Act Blue before because I wanted my candidate.
Donate $6,000 a month to Act Blue, right? That is beyond the legal limit, and they won't accept it.
I know.
I know James O'Keefe, and I'm not familiar with this specific thing you're talking about. I'd be happy to go check it out.
They just broke it down into little payments, but they didn't do it all at once.
Yes, all broken down into little payments.
Right, you have to, listen, I've donated, right? And you do have to identify yourself, and they will not accept payments above the legal limit. So
I think that's the issue.
I'm not familiar with him, but I think I immediately call into question the rigor of the investigation, because the platform itself does not allow what you're saying to occur.
I think that's the issue why they're supposed to investigate it, actually.
When I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm getting way too many motherfucking Kamala Harris commercials, and I don't know what the AI is targeting me for. If I watch Jon Stewart or something, all of a sudden I get Kamala Harris in my face. I don't know, but it's crazy. James Carville says she's going to get slaughtered. She might win, but they're going to put her face first through a wood chipper, and I don't think she can take it. I don't think she can beat Trump. I don't think the economy is good enough. I don't think she's serious enough politician to beat Trump. I think the only person who can beat Trump is Michelle Obama. Last topic is the prisoner swap. A very large prisoner swap between U.S. and allies and Russia. 24 total people. Notable people on our side was the U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, who was in jail for 5 years. That sucks. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gerskovich, and basically a bunch of other Russian. There was like one or two Germans, mostly Russians or like dual Russian, German or whatever. People that were kind of like anti-Putin that had been locked up for various things, kind of like Navalny's crew. They got all of them out, and then we sent them this like assassin guy who's this is what he is. The sleeper cell family from Slovenia with the two little girls that didn't know they were Russian, and a hacker guy and some other guys that they wanted back. So on our side, it's kind of like a feel-good victory because we get these people back. There's still the Russian ballerina locked up in this one other guy's still locked up over there. And then on Putin's side, he gets a big propaganda victory, and he gets to shore up, this like the motherland is going to come get you, because they have all these agents all over the fucking place. They're all out there doing their Russian thing, and they're bringing them back. Like if they get caught, then they know another guy gets caught. He's like, okay, I'll chill. Putin will get me out in like 2 or 3 years or whatever.
I thought it was interesting that they admitted like they've got these state assassins all around, and the sleeper cells. It was real public when he was hugging that woman coming off the plane with her family. She's hugging Putin, and like the little girls were just like dumbfounded. They're meeting the president of Russia, and are they Bolivian or something? Somewhere down in South America, I believe, right?
Argentinian.
Yeah. I think it was interesting that they admitted that, that does matter, in a global like chess game match. Like if your men know that you will get them, they will go on these suicide missions for you. Unlike those guys who did the terror attack in Russia, they're just getting tortured now. So everyone else is like, ugh, like they said they were going to come get those guys. So those things do matter, getting people to do nefarious things for you. But I don't know. I think everyone should pay attention to the fact that they admitted having these assassins everywhere, that, that matters. Especially we're talking about the Secret Service being so pincushioned now, like you can get through them easy. Like that's really dangerous.
Yeah, this motherfucker was up on that roof in Pennsylvania. Trump's melon would have popped.
Yeah.
It would have been one and done.
Yep. You talk about foreign interference.
I agree. I think that is the most interesting piece to me, right? So I do think probably for the Russians, the most important thing was Putin is saying to, not even to the entire population, but he's saying to his intelligence operatives who are operating overseas, I have your back. I'm going to make sure that you get home, even if you do the despicable things that I might be asking of you. And I think that probably is important for him. I think, personally, I agree that the most interesting piece is like, this like sleeper cell with kids getting off the plane and Vladimir Putin is saying buenas noches.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea that their family is from Russia. I find that fascinating. It is interesting. I am most heartened by the idea that we brought home, those Americans. I think we should continue to fight for that. We got Americans, especially when you have like an American journalist who is overseas, who is detained simply for doing his job. I think it's critical to see that if something happens to you, the U.S. government will fight just as hard and will bring you home. I applaud the administration for doing that. I think, I have heard that Joe Biden was making personal calls to keep this deal on the tracks as it was starting to kind of waver and fall apart, especially after Navalny died in Russia, in Russia. Joe Biden was personally involved in making sure that this stayed because he had compassion for getting these people home, which I think is fantastic. And I'm happy to see some good Americans who shouldn't have been detained and who, were put in jail on trumped up charges in a foreign country brought home.
I agree with the sentiment, and that's what I kept getting when I'm reading of all these Russians that are being released back to Russia. It's great that we have some of our folks that have been released. That's wonderful. It's about damn time. But I think all these people are like being released so that they can go and do dirty work for Russia because their resumes are quite impressive. So that's what I got out of it, is these guys are going to be brought home. They're going to get 2 days with the family, hug, kiss, bye, got to go to work.
I think the cover is blown at this point. I do think their cover is a little blown. So they're probably not going back to like assassinate people in foreign countries again. I'm not supportive of them being sent home necessarily. Their cover is pretty blown at this point.
Yeah.
We'll see. Secret Services is blown too, kind of.
Yeah, cat's out of the bag, yeah.
All right, y'all. Any final words from any of you guys?
I'll be happy when the election's over. Maybe people will calm down a little bit. But
you think it's going to calm down after the election, James? Is this your first one?
It's just going to get worse. It's never going to end.
We're going to riots every single day after this election is over.
And we'll be right here to video it for our viewers.
Yeah, real veteran news. I got my 360 camera going.
Yep.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for business. Would you guys like to take a second, say goodbye, starting with James?
Very nice meeting you, Chuck, and seeing you again, Marie, and having conversations with you guys is great. We'll look forward to it again.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you, Chuck. Great to see you, James, and John, always, of course. But thank you for having me. This was a good one.
Chuck?
Yeah, it was great to meet you, James, and always good to see you, Marie and John. I thought this was a great discussion, and I'm glad that I pulled you both all over to my side on so many issues. And Harris 2024.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Harris Daniels. We're doing Stormy Daniels.
Yes.
I'm not watching the show.
Yeah.
All right, look, I think it went well. I like the format. I'm getting 4 people. I'm losing some females. Hopefully we're going to get some more female talent, some Margaret, some Nikki, some Catherine, some other people, hopefully sometime.
You can just say women. They're not animals. You can just say women.
That's debatable.
Hey, now. Don't let these tattoos throw you off.
I'm the killer robot. This is how it works.
Yeah, the cyborg.
We're going to get the woman talent. We're going to get some liberal talent. Definitely need some liberals. Apparently all my friends are psycho conservative. Everyone's like, what the fuck? I'm getting the 4 people. Yeah, I'm getting the 4 people. I realize it can't be 3 Rangers and Mason. I get it. And also, you got a Mason free show this week, so you're welcome. But I think he's back next week. I think it's Mason and Jesse, and I got to find a liberal. And hopefully a female. So I'm going to work on it this week. I'm going to try to get the schedule all done up. We're building up the crew, hopefully health problems and life stuff together so that we can all come back on here and talk with new people and people who've been doing this for a while and everything. So thanks, everybody, and goodbye. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.